Memphis and Boston. You guys ready for the Uncle Drew show?
Yes, what you got for me, Drewy?
Kyrie Irving dropping dimes recently.
Ooh.
There's one to Marcus Smart.
The timely shooter. Don't look at his percentages. Just think when he makes them, boots. Because we know Marcus Smart, the timely shot maker.
Very timely.
Kyrie with 11 assists. Memphis fighting tough, but it's Boston on the break.
Ooh.
Yes, Jaylen Brown.
Wasn't the Diesel's dunk nominee, maybe?
Maybe in traffic, maybe.
Maybe I might be. Okay.
Mike Conley knocking it down from outside. Memphis, they take a 1-point lead late in the second quarter. It's Justin Holiday with the three.
Holiday.
Second half, more Conley. 26 and 4 for him. He's just consistently good.
Yep.
Year in, year out, night in, night out.
He was so banged up last year, Booze. You forgot how good Mike Conley is.
Very underrated point guard.
Grizzlies shot 45% from three-point range. But we told you it was the Uncle Drew show. Best handles in the league.
Ooh.
Tough shot maker.
Yes, indeed.
Tie game and Kyrie again.
And one thing we know about Kyrie, Booze, he puts in the work, so that's why we're not surprised when he makes these tough shots. My goodness.
You know it's going when the jersey is untucked. Untucked jersey, Kyrie is a thing of beauty. 38 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists for one Kyrie Irving. That's the second time this week we see him with the big points, but more importantly, double-digit assists. Here he is with Danielle Trotter. So much happening with Kyrie Irving, but let's start with the assists. And the first thing I think of is when he had the press conference with LeBron James and he looked down at the stat sheet, was like 0 assists. And now we see Kyrie in a leadership role, double-digit assists twice this week.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about Kyrie right now. He's getting his teammates involved. We all know he can score with the best of them. He's been that way his whole career. But to get his teammates involved, getting everybody 5, 6, 7 shots, easy buckets, wide open jump shots, on time, on target, that's a Kyrie. Especially for me, us as big men, we love point guards like to pass the ball. So for me personally, I like seeing Kyrie get his teammates involved.
Being aggressive, getting to the free throw line, I wish he'd, nitpick. He's 6 of 9 from the free throw line, being such a great shooter. But when you're aggressive like that, now the defense is on their heels. They're trying to figure out your next move. Now they're shifting. Now you're able to share the ball and get the ball to guys like Marcus Smart, where they're shooting a wide open three versus the contested three. That lets you know Kyrie's being in aggressive mode to create things for other people.
And also when you think of his comments this past week as far as, call LeBron and being in a leadership role, do you see him assisting as part of that leadership role, or is that looking into it too much?
Maybe looking into it too much. My take was that what he was trying to say, I wish he probably could have kept it in-house, and maybe it came out over the summer after the playoffs, and someone said, Kyrie, how'd your game change? Well, I went through a spurt throughout the season. I had to give Brown a call. Maybe that should have came out later. And I think the way it came out may have taken some people by surprise a little bit. But at the end of the day, he comes back with a game tonight being aggressive and showing some leadership, getting his teammates involved.
Yeah, I think the message was I needed to humble myself. Speaking of Kyrie's shoes, I think saying that I talked to LeBron was a little too much, like 3D said. But I think overall what he was trying to say was, I understand more now what I went through, what Bron went through, and I got to do a better job of being a leader in a different way. And I think that was more of a maturity thing.
3, when I think of those Orlando Magic teams that you were on, and it was you, Penny, Shaq, Nick Anderson, you guys were growing as a group together. How is that beneficial in the sense of not having someone who's a little bit older, but you guys are in that same age range?
Great question, Chris. I think for us, because Shaq and Penny's personalities were so opposite, it worked perfectly. And then I was the one being more vocal, and then Nick was doing his thing. And then we brought in Horace Grant. Then we brought in someone older, a veteran, a different voice that we kind of looked at and said, oh, wait a minute, he has 3 rings. Okay, let's listen to what he has to say. And then obviously we went on to go to the final. So leadership sometimes to me and for a lot of people comes in a lot of different ways. And I think for most superstars, they like to lead by example and kind of so. So when you look at this quote right here, to Boozle's point, we understood what Kyrie was trying to say. Because he remembered he was a knucklehead. We remember he would get mad when he'd be like, come on, Brian, give me the ball. Let me score some more.
The kid. That's the thing we remember.
That's what he's trying to say, and he's right. Game 7, he makes the biggest shot in Cleveland Cavalier history. As much as we love LeBron, he still has the biggest shot in Cleveland Cavalier history.
Right.
Yeah, so Kyrie Irving in a situation now where, look, the Boston Celtics, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals without him. So that's a dynamic in that locker room. And a play that we analyzed a few times here last week when he's at half court, Kyrie Irving raising his arms like, pass me the ball, and Jason Tatum gets the ball at the end of the game. Kyrie very vocal about that. When you're trying to hash out your differences on a team, is that stuff healthy, or is that not healthy to put it out publicly?
Yeah, you never want to put it out publicly. That's one of those situations in three. You take them aside, you go have dinner, you sit down, you watch the film, whatever, as a group, or you go enjoy your teammates and talk to them on a personal level, face to face. You never want to air that stuff out in the public eye.
You never want to do that because we've seen that play before where Al Horford sets the first screen, Tatum comes off, kind of throw the pump fake, and then Al comes sets the second screen for Kyrie. He's like, oh, you didn't set the screen. Now, Tatum makes that shot-winning game, we're not even having this conversation, right? Because that is an option. Like they said, they've seen him doing in practice in other games before. But Kyrie's competitive spirit kicked in as being the guy, the champion on the team. He wants the ball. I get it. It's figuring out a way as we grow up to come out with those information in a different way.
And it's just interesting because there's another team on a higher level, we'll say, the Golden State Warriors was, Steph Curry or Kevin Durant. Who's going to take the big shot in the big one? Well, we know the answer to that in the finals. I wonder if Kevin Durant can hear us, because that's the face that he's making. Leave it. Look, he sees you too, 3D.
Paradise, baby.
I had to call Bron, and tell him, I apologize for being that young player that wanted to everything at his fingertips, and I wanted everything to be at, my threshold. I wanted to be the guy that led us to championship. I wanted to be the leader. I wanted to be all that, and, the responsibility of being the best player in the world and leading a team is something that's not meant for many people. And Bron was one of those guys that came to Cleveland and tried to really show us what it's like to win a championship, and it was hard for him.
Kyrie Irving on Wednesday night trying to give folks a perspective on where he is now versus his time in Cleveland when he was the young star playing alongside LeBron James, and trying to give context to the comments he made during the 3-game losing streak when he was sort of complaining about not getting the ball and about the young guys he was playing alongside. I'm going directly to you with this because you know Kyrie very well, obviously, from your Cavaliers days. What did you think when you heard this the first time?
To be honest, I didn't hear any negative in it. And I was somewhat surprised that people went as negative with it as they did, in terms of he's trying to take a veiled shot at the young guys again, and that he's trying to be more passive-aggressive. I didn't see any of that, and I don't believe that relative to Kyrie. I think he was being very transparent. Like, look, I realize that I had an opportunity there that I didn't embrace and appreciate. What I think is different, though, and I think is complicated for Boston, LeBron was a multi-time MVP and a multi-time champion when he showed up, and he was clearly our leader, and he was 8 years older, 7 years older than Kyrie. In this situation, Kyrie and those other guys are very much more contemporaries. Kyrie is not a multi-time MVP, and they got one game away from the finals without him. So for him to come back, for Gordon to come back and introduce that much ball dominance, it was naturally going to take these young kids who have never played any other role than the role they just got done playing for that team. It's going to take them some time to find themselves. In Kyrie's case, he was sold. It's his team when he re-signed with us. And he recruited an entire team of free agents that all wanted to come. And then overnight, it was LeBron's team when LeBron decided to come back. Kyrie literally had a team taken away from him. Those young kids were never at that level yet. And so I think it's an interesting thing to see how Kyrie has now sort of become LeBron in this circumstance, and he thinks of himself in a weird way as the old head, when in reality, he's still just a kid and he's just figuring it out, and people need to just let him figure it out because his heart's in the right place.
Yeah. Oh, man, you said the word kid, though. That's what set him off when he was playing with LeBron. He bristled at the idea of being condescended, it seemed like. At least
yeah, but I'm really old.
Exactly. But I think the authenticity with, in his words ring true for a lot of people. The tough part is the one place where they might not is in that Boston locker room with some of those younger guys, because they are looking at it through a similar prism that Kyrie had when he was in Cleveland when LeBron came back. I don't know if anybody deals with millennials or young people. Try convincing them that their reality is not everybody's reality. Good luck. And these guys played so well last year when Kyrie and Gordon Hayward were not in the mix. They have no reason to come back and believe that's not possible again for them. Jaylen Brown, Tatum, Rozier,
Right.
they come back into this season with a confidence that you only accrue by doing what they did last year when these guys were out. So if you're Kyrie, you have to tread very carefully on the emotions and the confidence of these young guys, because they've got something to hold on to that you didn't have when LeBron came back to Cleveland. There had been no playoff success for Kyrie. All he was operating on was a vision of what he could do, kind of a blueprint of what he thought he could be as a player and what that team could be in the future. These guys have something in the pocket already. You got to be conscious of that and acknowledge that, to me, if you're Kyrie, when you're dealing with these young guys.
Brad Stevens was asked about this today, and he seemed to appreciate Kyrie's reflectiveness and his, the word he used was accountability as well. It was really interesting. The comments came right after Kyrie closed the game for them and sort of reasserted himself as one of the great closers in the league. Reminded his teammates perhaps as well why he wants the ball at the end of games. I wonder, though, is this a thing that could fester? Is this a conversation that needs to be had now?
I don't think so. And the reason is holding yourself accountable in the way he did gives he and Brad the ability to make it go away very quickly. Look, here's what I meant. Here's what I said. It's over.
Right.
And the way it goes away even quicker is if you stop talking about who the leader is
Right.
and just go play basketball. It's very difficult. You mentioned the fact that those young guys being millennials, right? I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it has to do with you're 19 and 20 and the only role you've ever known how to play is being the guy who helps carry you to the conference finals. And then you're told, yeah, that was good, but we need you to sacrifice now. That's a whole lot easier for a 28-year-old who's worn different hats in his
Right.
career
Right.
than it is for those young guys. So this was naturally going to take time, and this was naturally going to be Brad's biggest challenge. Brad's never entered a year with this kind of expectations as a coach. He's never entered a year with this many mouths to feed. So it takes time for them to find their stride, and that's to be expected.
It's a really interesting dynamic, and great players often fall into this trap of talking about their guys and their team because they're asked about it all the time. But there's always something that's a little off about that to me, declaring it yourself. The great players don't necessarily need to announce that.
Kyrie's actions will speak louder than any of his words.
Absolutely.
If he just continues to do what he does best, and that's play his guts out and play for the greater good. It's not like I've never felt like Kyrie was out there playing for the spectacle of Kyrie. Even if his game suggests that's what he's doing because it's so flashy, I never got the feeling that he was that kind of guy. Certainly not when LeBron came back. He slid into his role, even if he did it begrudgingly. He slid into the right role on those teams because he understood what was at stake.
Right.
He's got to allow some of his younger guys to evolve in their roles doing the exact same thing.
So you literally made me laugh when you said the spectacle of Kyrie, because this is a guy who can go wrong foot, left-handed floater in the paint over a big man to win a game. That's a spectacle in and of itself.
Yeah.
Where I think you've seen him showing real leadership, though, and he gets very little credit for this. He has picked up his end of the deal on the defensive side of the ball by leaps and bounds over where he was before. He's much better at the point of attack in a pick and roll than he's ever been. He's buying into everything that they are asking everyone else to do. He's just learning how to vocalize it.
Boston's lead is now 14 over the Memphis Grizzlies on their home floor tonight. They lead that game 44-30 and 5-2 so far for Kyrie.